Is very specific to your source. We're going to pretend this is sitting right on the ground, because you know how some brick buildings right on the ground, they get where the rain falls off the roof and it splashes and it gets dirty up on the side of it. That's what we're going to try to imitate a little bit. Now this is brown and black, and on a sponge. Notice how precise. I also, because if you're doing something near the ground, it always has some sort of mold or vegetation growing on it. Yep. So we're adding a little bit of green.
You just spilled your orange glaze.
Did I? Oh, crappy crap. Oh. Squeegee. Soak that up. Leave a little hole on the floor. I'll use it out of the floor.
Oh, I was going to squeeze that in.
Oh. No, I have this. This is something
We're going to do slightly less quality video now, but I have an extra like 25 minutes
I
of
got
tape.
you.
Thank you, Abby.
Well, then we got to get him to juggle again.
All right.
I can get part of the juggling.
So I'm trying not to be too... Unfortunately, what the weathering does often is it kills a lot of your details. So, but we have not added any of the highlight or any of the shadow yet, because none of that is happening with the weathering. We're looking at it as a 2D surface now, still. Very dependent on what is happening. Now this is also the place where if you're doing something that has, I don't know, a drain pipe, something. Oh, by the way, it is sometimes up front, but you know, the drain pipe.
We need to talk about it.
What's wrong with the drain pipe?
I just wanted to talk to Dan about it. Or you.
Well, I painted
I sent you an
it.
email about the drain pipe this morning.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, tell me where the storm is, I'll tell you when the drain pipe goes.
All right. Oops, sorry.
You can add, I'm going to go to the place where I don't
Stop
have,
it.
you know, you may have stuff running down the edge.
Like rough.
Right.
Oh,
You've got a, you know, something. Again, this type of weathering very specific to whether it's on the ground or in the air, or if there's a piece of metal hardware on the side of the building, or if there is wires hanging on the building, or if there's none of, don't make something up that doesn't have a purpose, right? Don't just have, oh, it's a rust spot here. From what?
It just rested right there.
No rust spot.
God made the rust.
They're much, much more interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so we've done our aging. We can continue to do aging. Don't completely wipe your bricks out, but if it is heavily aged, don't be afraid to heavily age it. Next.
Highlights and shadows.
Highlight and shadows. Okay. So at this point, you have got the bricks, you've given them a history, you have aged them appropriately, and now you're going to do whatever is happening with it, highlight and shadow lines. And this is my shadow color. It is Van Dyke brown and a little bit of Prussian blue, and then I'm using a bit of this as my highlight. It's the same color as the glaze. Truth be known, I would probably tint this a tad whiter, or I would, after I put it on, go back with real just white and pop the edges, but we're just going to use it as is for now and see what happens.
I like popping the edges.
So I'm going to do,
Pop.
now the shadow color stuff, pick a brush that emulates about the right size depending on what your mortar is doing based on that picture. So for these are standard bricks, so they've just got a little bit of a sunken mortar on them. This is where
I want to watch this video with you.
I better see you using a lining stick for this. Unless your brick is so decrepit. Because you can, I mean, you can go in here if you have a good hand and do lines.
I definitely have to use an angry stick. Okay, I see it, fine, I'll use a stick.
You can do it. I will watch you very closely while you do it.
And laugh
wrong.
when we
That
make
won't make
That's
sense.
wrong. That's wrong.
Now I'm picking a light source. You don't necessarily have to do this on every one. You don't need to have solid lines, especially on Unless you're doing a very pristine brick that doesn't have a lot of weathering on it, if it hasn't been aged very much, they may look very precise. But we don't want it to look like you're just outlining them. A lot of that has to do with the consistency of your shadow color.
So you're doing a light source that's like up over by...
Right. Right. It's Mercy's yellow shirt is the sun.
So we don't want it to be accurate, but we need to use a lining stick. Yep.
Okay.
Well,
For you guys, yeah. If you use a lining stick for half of it, and you decide it looks better this way, go ahead and do that.
Oh, I'm just wondering.
Has to be a choice, though. You can't just
Now, if you're doing a really aged brick, you can think about adding some of the shading that would happen if the brick is worn, right? Some bricks, the edges wear off and they curve. Some bricks have holes in the center of them. Each brick is an individual, but you treat it very quickly. You're not going to sit there like if you had an entire flat of things you're doing, you would want to go very quickly. So don't agonize over every little shadow. Think of them as a whole, but treat them individually. Okay, so go through, add your highlights, your shadows. Ooh, that was pink. Okay. Then we'll see this. I think this is probably going to be a bit pungent, this color. So.
Pungent.
Pungent?
Uh-oh. Pungent color.
I add shadow. I'm gonna write that down.
I've heard the word pungent.
Pungent.
In relation to snow.
My highlights always just look like a blob of lightness.
Strong smelling.
Now notice I'm not connecting these. These are worn bricks. They don't have, and what I'm also going to do is, sometimes bricks wear in a fashion where they catch an entire edge, not just a corner, but an entire edge. And again, I would do this to all of them.
Are we using a lining stick with this?
Again, it depends on how old your bricks are.
Okay.
Sometimes you can do this freehand and it's actually more effective. Sometimes you need to use a lining stick because you want that crispness. See the difference between those? This brick is much younger.
The newer it is, use the lining stick.
Which means it's probably a fake and there's buried treasure hidden behind it.
David.
Who fed Kelsey before she came? Whatever you ate for breakfast, no more of it. No more of that.
No, I say yes, more of it. Yes, more of it.
Getting to it.
That's great.
Yeah, the palm frond.
Now the real test of this is going to be when we set it up and we stand away from it.
Yeah.
So let's I want to get these highlights kind of finished. I want to get at least this center section kind of done. This takes a little bit of time. So
Do we want this to be like an exterior wall, or can it be like a fireplace?
it can be a fireplace. I've had people do fireplaces before. I think depending on the fireplace, exterior walls tend to work a little better because you have more chance for ornamentation and interesting things happening. But